Hello. Oil, the dollar and the S&P 500 have been correcting down since the beginning of the month. Although we believe this trend may continue until the end of the second quarter, we also believe it is likely to bounce during April. We first look at the hourly chart of the Euro-US dollar on our FinGraphs platform. The hourly chart gives the perspective over the next few weeks. As we can see, the euro has bounced up again since early March and is now ready pretty much to fulfill its impulsive targets up. It could reach into the lower 109s, and the time allocated for this trend is almost finished. We could see another week or so. The risk index is getting close to the overbought band, and also here there's probably a bit more to go, but it's almost done. Looking to the daily, we can see the slow reversal process of the euro. We've had a first move up into late January, a correction down, and now this second move up. That said, it is slowly getting into our corrective targets, which usually serve as resistance. The targets up, or the upper end of these corrective targets, is around 109.70. So we believe that in the high 109s on this daily chart, we could run into strong resistance. The risk index is still bouncing off the oversold. It could yet retest once more during the next month or so. Looking at the weekly or the perspective over the next few quarters, it is still in the downtrend, yet it has reached its targets both in terms of time and price. The risk index is well oversold, so although we cannot exclude, and we would also expect a bit of a retracement here, the euro is slowly turning up on a long-term basis. Now, looking at all three charts together with this investor's view, we look at the weekly, the daily and the hourly chart. The weekly, as said, is in an extended and almost exhausted downtrend. The daily is turning up and is going to reach the resistance of its corrective targets. The hourly is in an impulsive uptrend, but is slowly getting to the point where we would expect some retracement. Now, looking at the mini S&P futures, we can see that it has been correcting down since early March. This is the hourly chart, so the perspective over the next few weeks. There's still a bit more to go. We can see that it could dip below 2300 here, so possibly another 1% down. The risk index is slowly getting into an oversold condition, so we could expect a bounce here on the hourly chart, possibly over, which will start possibly within a week to 10 days. Now, looking at the daily chart, although it is quite exhausted and expensive, it has reached its impulsive targets, it is still in an uptrend. Similarly, the weekly chart is also quite expensive and exhausted. The risk index is also overbought, but it is still also in an uptrend. We believe that we are in the realms or in a position to have an intermediate top, hence our bearish view until the end of the second quarter, yet we believe it could move up in the second half of the year. Putting it all together, exhausted uptrend on the weekly, exhausted uptrend on the daily, yet the hourly has taken out quite a bit of risk. We are almost already oversold, so we would expect a bounce during the first weeks of April. Now, moving on to Brent, which has also been correcting quite substantially since the beginning of March. We can see that it's pretty much reached its targets down with our E down target done, labeled here. It has reached an intermediate bottom, reacted a bit. The price action is not very compelling, so we believe that it's probably more retest to be seen, possibly for another week to 10 days. The daily is in a correction down. It has reached the upper boundaries of what this correction should actually deliver, but there's still risk down here until 46. So we could expect a bounce, but it's quite a risky trade here at this stage. The weekly does give support. It is in a bull trend, although only a corrective bull trend. It has reached the low end of its corrective targets. The corrective target zone serves as resistance, so it's just normal that it retraces. In general, as with the S&P, yet a weaker version, we would expect it to correct down into the end of the second quarter and then move up again during the second half of the year. We look at other charts, we do the investors view, so all three charts together on Brent. So a correction up here on the weekly, which has met a resistance. The resistance has triggered a correction down on the daily, which is getting into support here of our daily corrective targets down. And the hourly is quite oversold, but could extend a few more days to a week. Now looking at other charts, which may confirm these trends, we look at the dollar-yen. The dollar-yen is still in an uptrend on our weekly charts. It's had quite a significant correction into mid-2016, and it's trying now to resume its uptrend, possibly towards the end of this year. The daily chart has started to correct down. We could see that it has also reached its corrective targets down. There's a bit more risk here, possibly down to 106 in worst cases, but we would also expect a bounce here over the coming weeks. And the hourly is now has been moving lower, impulsive downtrend, slowly getting oversold, a bit more potential here, possibly down to 108, and during another week or so before it starts to rebound. Similarly, gold is still in a downtrend, but you can see that our envelopes are now heading up. We've seen a second point of stress of the smaller envelope against the bigger one. It's like if we are creating a base here to move higher. The risk index is oversold, probably oversold for a second time, so that's also quite compelling to support a nascent uptrend. The daily has moved up since December, has reached our corrective targets up, which serve as resistance here, and we could expect some retracement over the coming weeks. The hourly has been moving up quite aggressively and is slowly getting in the direction of its impulsive targets. There's a bit more to go here, a bit more on the risk index too, so give it another week to 10 days before it tops out and starts to retrace during April. We also look at the equity markets. Some of them are still quite strong. You look at the DAX, it's still in an uptrend on the weekly. No real signs of stress yet here. On the daily, it has reached its impulsive targets and it is overbought, but it is still heading up, so it could still extend a bit. And we could also confirm that by the fact that the hourly is still very much constrained here in this consolidation. As long as it stays corrective, the risk index seems to be moving up again. We would consider that a last move up during April is possible. The stop losses would be a bit below 11,900, so the corrective hourly targets here. Finally, we also look at another vector of growth in the world, China. And China is in a corrective uptrend for now on the weekly. It is heading up, but not quite overbought yet, and still has a bit to go in terms of price action on the daily. And the hourly also seems quite compelling, still heading up and not overbought yet. So give it another week to 10 days, and we believe that reflation assets could start bouncing into April. That said, we're still quite negative towards the end of the second quarter. Thank you very much and have a good week.